Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a really focused set of sources today.
Right, all pointing towards one significant statement reportedly coming out of Israel.
Exactly. Our source stack for this deep dive, well, it's quite specific. It's built around a report from the Middle East Monitor.
Okay.
And importantly, it tells us it's citing the Hebrew language newspaper, Israel Hayom.
Ah, so there's a chain.
Yes. And Israel Hayom is then cited by the Palestinian news agency Wafa. So you see, we're tracing the info through a few layers here.
Understood.
At the heart of it, a recent statement attributed to Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar, reportedly made on May 26th, 2025.
Okay, Gideon Sar.
Our mission for this deep dive isn't about taking sides, obviously, but really to understand what this particular report claims.
Just the facts as presented in the source.
Precisely. What threat is attributed to the minister? Under what conditions, reportedly? And what's the immediate context described within this specific report? It's about helping you cut through the noise, you know?
Get straight to the core claims presented right here.
Yeah. And what makes digging into this report, well, particularly interesting?
Is the direct link it draws.
Exactly. The link, reportedly stated by the minister, between a potential Israeli action and what other countries might do.
So the source presents the core threat as being from Gideon Sa'ar, the foreign minister,
Yes.
stating he would impose Israeli sovereignty over specific territories. Basically, annexation.
That's how the report frames it, yeah. A clear threat of potential annexation. So which specific territories does this source actually mention?
According to this report, the territories named are settlements in the occupied West Bank,
Okay.
along with the Jordan Valley.
Got it. West Bank settlements and the Jordan Valley. Those are the areas cited. And what's the trigger? The source lays out a condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
When would this reported annexation potentially happen?
Well, that's where the international angle comes right in. The report says the condition is if major countries, and it specifically names the UK and France, proceed with recognizing the state of Palestine.
Wow. Okay, so the report frames this as a very direct conditional response, a reaction to a specific diplomatic step by, well, key international players.
Exactly.
Did the minister, as quoted in the source, give any reason, a rationale for this potential move?
Yes, the source does include a quote attributed to him.
Okay.
It says, any unilateral measures taken against Israel will be met with unilateral measures by Israel.
Unilateral measures met with unilateral measures.
That phrasing, as presented in the report, seems pretty significant. It positions the potential annexation not as, out of the blue,
Right.
but as a direct sort of tit-for-tat response. It suggests seeing international recognition as a unilateral measure against Israel.
I see. So the report uses that quote to spell out the minister's stated justification.
That's the idea presented, yes.
That quote definitely provides the reported logic within the source's narrative.
Yeah.
Now, the report also places this statement within an immediate international context. What does the source say is happening diplomatically right now?
Well, it states this warning comes amid pretty significant diplomatic efforts, apparently led by French President Emmanuel Macron. He's reportedly working towards putting together an international conference in New York, planned for mid-June.
A conference in New York in June. And what's the reported goal of this conference, according to the source?
The stated aim, as reported, is to mobilize international support.
Yeah.
Basically gather backing for the recognition of a Palestinian state.
It sounds like there might be a specific timeline in mind, too, based on the report. Is there a particular date being pushed?
The report mentions that diplomatic sources apparently shared with Israel Hayom that Macron is aiming for June 18th.
June 18th.
As a target date, yeah. For several countries to issue official declarations recognizing Palestine.
And the source mentions another key player.
It does. It notes that Saudi Arabia is reportedly supporting this French initiative.
Okay, so we have this reported French-led push, a specific date mentioned, Saudi backing, all detailed in the source. How does the report say the Israeli government reacted to these specific efforts by Macron?
Well, the source states that Macron's move has reportedly caused anger within the Israeli government.
Anger.
Yes. And they've reportedly accused Macron of deception.
Deception? Why?
Claiming he'd previously given assurances to Tel Aviv that he wouldn't, pursue this kind of step.
Ah, okay. That certainly paints a picture of the immediate diplomatic friction reported in this document surrounding this potential recognition push.
Definitely shows tension. according to the report.
The source also includes a couple of broader background facts, too, doesn't it, to kind of frame the situation?
It does, yeah. The report mentions the current number of UN member states that already recognize Palestine. It states it's 149 out of 193.
So a majority already do.
According to the source, yes. And it also references a specific ruling by the International Court of Justice.
By ICJ.
Right. On July 20th, 2024. The source says that ruling deemed Israel's presence in occupied Palestinian territories illegal, supported the Palestinians' right to self-determination, and called for the evacuation of Israeli settlements.
So the report uses these points as part of the existing backdrop.
Exactly. Context provided within the source itself.
It's really crucial, especially with topics like this, to be crystal clear. In this deep dive, we're focusing only on the claims and information presented in this specific Middle East Monitor report, which, remember, cites Israel, Hayom, and Wafa.
Absolutely. We're not bringing in outside info.
No outside info, no taking political sides, and definitely not endorsing any viewpoints in this source. Our job is just to help you understand what this particular piece of information says.
Precisely. We're like guides, just helping you navigate this specific map of information that's been presented.
Yeah.
And if we think about what this report means for you, the listener, well, understanding this specific recorded threat and its conditions is important because this piece of information lays out a potential scenario. It suggests, according to this report, that international diplomatic efforts aimed at recognizing Palestine are being publicly framed by an Israeli official as a potential trigger for a very specific counter-unilateral measure from Israel, namely annexation of certain territories.
So it helps you see, based entirely on this one source, a stated potential reaction that could significantly shape things moving forward.
It's about mapping out the reported positions and triggers just as they are laid out here.
It provides a reported framework, really, a lens through which one could view potential future actions based purely on the claims within this document.
Yes, exactly that. A framework from this source.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean, based just on this deep dive into the Middle East Monitor report?
Well, we've seen a clear conditional threat attributed to Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar.
Right, the potential annexation of settlements in the occupied West Bank and the Jordan Valley.
And the reported trigger is the recognition of a Palestinian state by major countries, specifically mentioning the UK and France.
And the stated reasoning, that quote from the source framing it as reciprocal, any unilateral measures met with unilateral measures.
We also covered the immediate diplomatic context described in the report.
Yeah, the French-led initiative, the reported target date of June 18th, Saudi support.
And the reported Israeli reaction, anger, accusations of deception towards Macron.
And we also touched on those background facts the source included about existing international recognition and that ICJ ruling.
So this specific report essentially lays out one potential scenario.
A scenario where international recognition efforts could trigger a specific counteraction from Israel, as articulated by the foreign minister in this report.
That's the core takeaway from this specific source material.
Which does raise an important question, thinking just within the framework presented here. If, as the source quotes the minister, unilateral measures are met with unilateral measures, how does that specific dynamic, as described in this report, potentially influence or maybe even limit the possibilities for diplomacy and legal processes going forward?
That's certainly something to think about as you process this information. How does that reported measure-for-measure framework shape the path ahead?
Something to consider.